Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's edition of Advanced Bass Fishing, and really appreciate you guys coming by the channel to spend some time with me on today's video, because we're going to be talking about what is the number one thing that causes a bass to strike a lure. Everybody needs to know this, because that way you can prepare with the right techniques and the right approaches. So we're going to go over that in today's video. Also, guys, before we get started, I just want to invite everybody out there, if you haven't had a chance, to please consider subscribing here to Advanced Bass Fishing. If you subscribe and hit that like button, share the videos, it's a good way to do it. We also have channel memberships here on Advanced Bass Fishing if you'd like to go further to help the channel out. And just a big thank you to everybody that's been using all the links I put in the description. Really appreciate that. Okay, what's the number one thing, man, that generates a strike from a bass? Number one thing is it depends on the mood and the personality of the bass. Now, you hear me talking a lot about this on all three of my channels, mood and personality of a bass. The bass have personalities just like humans do, and it changes all the time. There's a lot of different things that change a bass's mood and personality, and figuring out what the mood and the personality of the bass is will help you determine what is the number one thing that will help trigger that strike. So from my experience, guys, in bass fishing, there's pretty much two moods and personalities that the bass sort of fall into. They either are in the mood and the frame of mind to hit a moving bait or a reaction bait, or they're either in a mood where they want to pick something up off the bottom and they don't want to hit a reaction bait that's being reeled through the water column. Now, this depends on the mood of their aggressiveness. Now, for the most part, what you're going to find is bass will chase a reaction lure, like a crankbait, a spinnerbait, a chatterbait, something that moves horizontal through the water column, jerkbait, when conditions are conducive, where their mood and their personality is more aggressive and they're more active and they want to chase. Now, there's got to be several different factors involved with this as far as to determine that. And a big part of it is a combination of the weather patterns and the amount of fishing pressure that a lake has. That will determine if a bass is going to chase or not. Now, the weather patterns, they can vary a little bit, and the variation depends on your water clarity in correlation with that, because most of the time what happens is bass in a cleaner water environment, like say, for example, if you got water visibility over 3 or 4 feet, those bass are a lot more sensitive to weather patterns. But if you have a more dirty water environment, like where the water visibility is stained, like under 2 foot visibility, those weather patterns have a little bit less of an impact on the fish chasing or not chasing. But it's been my experience that overall, when you have a set of conditions that you have a stable or a falling barometric pressure, and you have a south wind, a southwest wind, or a westerly wind that has a little bit of speed to it, like maybe a 10 to 15 mile an hour wind, and you've got some level of overcast. It doesn't have to be cloudy, but you need to have like at least 75% overcast. The closer that you get to those set of conditions, the more active fish are, the more that they're chasing, regardless of your water temperature. And that's when normally your horizontal moving reaction baits are going to work a little bit better, in correlation with the fact that you don't have much fishing pressure on the lake. If you have that set of weather patterns that I just described there, and you don't have a lot of heavy fishing pressure, that's a good indication that the number one thing that's going to trigger a bass to bite is going to be with a reaction bait, a horizontal lure moving through the water column where the fish are actively chasing it. Now, if you go on the other end of the spectrum, and you have some deteriorating weather conditions that are not, conducive to that, where you have your light levels are brighter, maybe it's a bluebird or a bright sunny day, you don't have much wind, or the wind direction is coming out of the northeast, southeast, and it's cooler, and you have fishing pressure, the more that you have those factors together, the more inactive that the mood and the personality of the fish are going to be, and they're not going to want to chase. They're going to want to pick something off the bottom. Now, this is a general overview. I mean, I have found that to be true more than not. So one of the things that I look at is light intensity and wind. If I'm out there fishing where I need my sunglasses, it's really bright out, and I don't have much wind, I don't really look for those fish to be chasing a lot for the most part. And especially if there's a lot of people on the water, if there's a lot of You know, it can be recreational traffic like jet skis or bass boats or whatever, but the more combination that you have of that, the less those fish are going to want to move and get off the bottom. And that's when you really have to go down to those bottom hugging lures like shaky heads and Ned rigs and jigs and, you know, things that stay on the bottom. So the thing that you have to tell yourself when you're going out on the water is, this is what I try to do every single day I'm on the water. When I put my boat in the water, the first thing I want to do is I want to figure out the mood and the personality of the fish in terms of, do they want to chase or they do not want to chase. And a lot of times it's a matter, you just have to try it and you have to experiment a little bit to see if they, you know, are in a chasing mood or not in a chasing mood. I'll give you guys a prime example. You know, say for example, you and I go fishing at Table Rock the first or second week of April out there. And we have just the typical conditions I'm talking about, where it's partly cloudy days, maybe it's not much wind, but the mood and the personality of the fish in April, when those fish are wanting to spawn and wanting to get shallow, it makes it almost impossible to catch them on a moving lure. It's like you have got to be fishing on the bottom or you're not going to catch hardly anything. And then again, vice versa, if we go to that same body of water, like say in early fall, when you have very similar set of conditions, you can't hardly get a bite on a slow bait. You need to be burning a crankbait or ripping a spinner bait or something moving through the water. So you just really have to figure out, you know, what that mood and personality is. A lot of factors that contribute to that. So anyway, guys, hope it helps you out, and we'll talk later.